Hello YouTube. If you're watching this video, then you're probably well aware of the craze that's going around at the moment for Labubu monsters. They are absolutely everywhere. They're in my local corner shop, they're in garages, seen them at the car boot sale a lot. And I decided that it would be cool to show you guys how to make one. So normally I start with like a wire armature and I build around that. But with this, I wanted to make it easier so that children could have a go as well. So I decided just to use aluminium foil squashed into balls. So you make one for the head, one for the body, two smaller ones for the arms, two smaller ones for the legs, and then just join them all together with either cocktail sticks or I use kebab skewers. You might want to get a parent to help you with that bit because they're quite sharp. I cut my kebab skewers using wire cutters. Right, this next stage was just to coat everything with this stuff called milliput. I'm using silver grey today, but you can use the standard if you want, or any other colour. Here's a QR code so you can get yourself some milliput. If you haven't tried it before, it's a two-part putty. You mix the two parts together in equal amounts and it sets rock hard at room temperature in about 4 hours. Just means you could do one bit at a time. So there I went in and I textured it all up just using a small ball stylus tool, and you basically just pull it through the milliput and it gives you all this really amazing texture. Have a little experiment yourself until you get the texture right. Okay, my face was looking a bit rough a second ago, so I added some more milliput over the top and smoothed it over. Then I've added two kind of oval balls, if you like, of milliput for the eyes, and I pressed them down to flatten them. And I put a smaller blob in the middle for a nose, just made that slightly triangular. Okay, because there was an extra layer of milliput on the face area, I was able to push into that using a sort of a blunt knife modeling tool. You've probably seen those kind of plastic knives and things you can buy. It's one of those. Just push down in to create that kind of smile and the triangle shapes for each tooth. There are 10 teeth altogether. Okay, the oval balls that I made for the eyes, just make smaller oval balls and push them into the centers of the eyes, and again press down to flatten them. That gives you two oval shapes to create the pupils in the eyes. By the way, you could do this with air drying clay if you haven't got milliput, but milliput is what I recommend. It's the best stuff. It just dries rock hard and it just makes it last forever. Air drying clay kind of crumbles a bit after a while if you don't look after it. Right, I made these two blobs of milliput and I just squashed them at the top. So they're a bit flat at the top. And these are going to be for the eyebrow ridges on your little creature's face. So all I do is I position them just at the top of the eye like this. And then that flat bit that I've made at the top, I can use that to kind of push into the rest of the face to smooth it all in. You can smooth those bits in just using your fingers, especially if you're a child and you've got quite small fingers, that'll make it much easier. If you've got quite big fingers, you might want to use a ball stylus tool just to go around the edges and then maybe smooth it in just a little bit with your finger afterwards as well. I added a couple of lumps underneath his chin, one on each side. You can see them there. I just made a couple of kind of sausages of milliput, squashed them on, and then again used the ball stylus tool just to drag through it to create the texture like before. Okay, for the ears, you can do them in stages. So you can see the first stage that I've done is just to make these two kind of smooth bits. These are going to be the middle parts of the ears. And it's basically, again, like making kind of sausages, make them a bit pointy at the ends, and then sticking them on and kind of smoothing them in with a ball stylus tool just to kind of squash them into place. And then I've gone around the edge with a thicker kind of triangle shape, and then I've textured all of that outside bit in. So the same texture that I was doing before with my ball stylus tool, and then I've just pressed in the shape of the inside bit of the ears as well. I also made little hands and little feet, and they're quite easy because you just put a ball of milliput where each hand and each foot is going to go. You squash it slightly so it's a little bit flat, and then just use your plastic knife tool just to score a line in between each finger or each toe. Right, we're on to the painting stage. So this is taking some green paint. This is like emerald green mixed with a bit of cadmium red. You mix the two colours together and this gives you a really nice, really dark brown colour. Now obviously this depends on what colour you want your Labubu to be, because you can choose your colours at this point. I'm just making like a standard kind of greyish brown one. So keep mixing the paint until you can see no more green streaks and no more red streaks. It all just looks like a nice flat dark brown colour. I'm using a paint called System 3 acrylic paint to do this, but if you've got any kind of acrylic paint that should be fine. Now, when you use acrylic paint like this straight from the tube, it's pretty thick. So what I do in a minute, I'll add a little bit of water in with this just to make it a little bit more fluid. And that's a really good idea when you're trying to paint something with a lot of texture. So think about our Labubu. It's all covered in all this texture to make it look slightly furry. And all that texture is really kind of deep. And if you don't water down the paint just a little bit, you can see there I just added a couple of flicks of water into this. I'm just going to stir that in. That makes it much more fluid, and it means when I'm painting it onto the Labubu, it's going to sink down into all of those little grooves and deep places. I think you'll all enjoy doing this first stage of painting because it's the easiest stage really. It's just one colour going over everything. Right, look at this brush. It's really bad brush. It's all frayed. It's a really old brush, and they're the best kind of brushes I think to use for this kind of thing, because you're trying to get the paint to go down into all those little places. So just paint it on and yeah, try and get it everywhere. You can see I've put it over the whole thing, even the face. Just makes it easier, you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to think where you've got to put it. You just know you've got to put it over everything. And you coat the front of your Labubu. Then it might be worth drying it with a hairdryer. You can see I've got loads of kind of flicks of paint all over my floor while I was doing this. I'll need to wash those off afterwards. But yeah, paint one half, hairdryer it, and then paint the other half. Right, the next stage was to paint the face, the ears, the hands and the feet using this flesh colour. So if you haven't made a flesh colour before, the colours you need to use are yellow ochre mixed with white and a tiny bit of red. So I used a bit of cadmium red like I used before for the brown, and mix them all together. Like I say, just a tiny bit of red. You don't need much, otherwise the face will go really pink. You're trying to make a flesh colour, so mainly yellow ochre and white. Okay, the next stage is to paint the whites of the eyes, obviously white, and the teeth white. All of the black lines that you're seeing are not actually black. They're that dark brown that we put on before, and they're just left. All of the lines on the mouth and around the teeth, those are kind of gaps, so they're deep places. So you're just painting the white of the teeth right on the kind of top surface of those triangles that we made earlier. Okay, and then the final stage is called dry brushing. This is where you take a lighter brown colour. So take your brown colour you used before and add some white to it, quite a bit of white, and then you put some on your brush, put it on some kitchen paper to dry it a little bit, and then you just brush it over all of the top surfaces of everything. And because it's almost dry on your brush, it doesn't sink down into all of those gaps. It just goes on all of the top surfaces and it makes the fur texture really show up. I also added a little bit of pink on his cheek areas and just above his nose. There's 3 little dots above his nose as well, and I put the little highlight bits in the eyes as well. The highlight shapes are just painted with a tiny brush, and you just use the same flesh colour that you used before. Right, this is the finished Labubu. I hope you like him, and let me know in the comments if you decide to have a go at making one of these for yourself. Like I said, my son persuaded me to make this. He's really into Labubus. He's bought himself one, and I keep seeing them at car boot sales, and I've got to admit, they're pretty cute little monster characters. So I didn't mind having a go at making one just to see if I could. Check out my other sculpting videos if you get a chance. There's loads of different movie creatures, for example. Thanks to Milliput for sponsoring this channel. Hit subscribe if you want to see anything that I post up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.